And you are welcome to add in anything that you desire, of course. So, Cara is a parenting coach and energy healing coach. And she is the mother to two young children with a background in early childhood education. She's a Women's Sister Circle facilitator and an awakening soul treading a path into new earth. She's divinely guided in working with evolutionary energy, alchemy, quantum shifting, chakra centers, and more. And she's working on a passion project, a book of collecting experiences and insights of transmutation into a higher frequency called A New Way, Living the Energy of Evolution. And from there, she's been applying all of this knowledge she's received over the last 2 years into the creation of her work with New Way Parenting. It's her intention to work with parents and their energy in order to create within themselves frequencies of peace, calm, awareness, and intuitive strength. The dream with her work is to make life today more harmonious in the family dynamic and home, as well as guiding parents in how to prepare their children for this evolutionary shift of which they will be going through and living in, creating the most creative, intuitive, and strong humans who will be leading the way forward into peace and well-being for all. So that's amazing. I'm just so thrilled to have you here. And anything you want to add to that? Anything that I missed?
I think that really, grouped in all of the things that I love and are passionate about, and uh, really have been pulling into my work as I go along here, navigating,
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
as
Awesome.
myself and
Yeah, it's just such a, I mean, it's such an amazing thing to come across someone like you because there's definitely a lot of parenting coaches out there, but it's another thing to, I think, work with what you work with. So, can you tell us a little bit more, like for someone who may not really be familiar with energy work, like what's different about the parenting coaching that you do?
well, I would say that it because it's such a change in perspective of the beings that we are. So when you're working with energy with a child, you kind of shift it away from the child's behavior and what they're doing, and you can see it as an energy. You can say, oh, I usually use terms like, oh, I see you have the anger energy, and it totally takes me and the kids away from it's you and what you're doing to you're experiencing something, and there's a way to move through energy, and you're not bad, you're not good, you're not, it has nothing to do with who you are and your identity. It's more about what can you do with that energy now. And I
Hmm.
think it's important to teach our children, because they're going to experience so much in their path here on this journey of life on earth, um, all of the years that they're here. So if we start them now with energy work and chakras and building themselves up through their navigation, then I think they're going to have pretty good, mastery of themselves.
Yeah, I really love that because as you're talking about this, I mean, I work with energy too, and we know that we have all these different frequencies, and so when you talk about it, it's it's literally the truth. Like anger has an energy. It's an energy. It has a frequency. So you're just literally, feeling that frequency moving through you. And what we feel and how we act is just sort of like a consequence of that vibration.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a really different way, I think, of kind of the old paradigms. Like, and I just want to say, we are live here in our group Activate, and Heather's here. So yay, welcome. This is a total conversation, so I am checking the chat. And as you have like questions, comments, your experience, like by all means, please chime in. But I'm curious, like, how would you define the old paradigm? Because I feel like when we grew up in the old paradigm and we lived through the old paradigm, there's things that we just live with. We're not always like aware, like that's just the way the paradigm is, but we're not necessarily, when you take that step back, like are we aware that we're living in that? So what do you feel like is the kind of the old way of doing things that's different?
Um, Such a good thing to think of because I think we need to know where we're moving from. And the old paradigm to me is really rooted in um, really dense energies of, um, a lot of people are focused on greed or lack or these big, huge energies. And I think we gave those to our children generation after generation. And um, and then it shows up in how we have our infrastructure and how we create schools and how we have medicine, and So right now, I think we're living really in this shifting out of that old paradigm of things that have been rooted in really dense energies. And so now,
Hmm.
as we shift out of them, we're going through the lighter frequencies. And so
Hmm.
the old paradigm is just very dense to me. I feel like
Yeah.
it doesn't really
Yeah.
represent human beings.
Well, it makes me think of, I mean, when I think of being on Earth School and this particular planet and everything, a lot of what you're talking about is like ego based, or it's sort of like the unconscious masculine or more patriarchal way of doing things. 'Cause it's in comparison, it's in competition. There is going to be a winner. It is kind of top down, and there is an authority, and one thing that I've really talked about is, especially in the work that I do, it's like helping us free ourselves as adults when we listen to our own inner guidance, we listen to our intuition. So we're sort of taking back some of that empowerment that was really like squelched and just tried to be erased because it was threatening to the patriarchy, to that sort of power structure. And also moving from what, in our worlds, I think we probably hear a lot of people talk about moving from like the 3D to the 5D. And when you talk about, energy and vibration and density, I mean, like I'm with you. Like I'm totally tracking, but I know that can be kind of new for a lot of people, what that means. So how would you describe like what it is that we're moving towards? Like if I say, we're moving from this 3D to this 5D, which we literally are, and you clearly are like a light worker helping us do that. You're helping, the parents of today parent the adults of tomorrow. Like what does that actually mean? Like what is that going to look like? Like what can we envision that we're moving towards?
I love that. So alignment. I want my children and all of the children of this planet to live in a place where they're able to be their free selves. We're not pulled in a million different directions for work and for all the things that we have. We're so disconnected. So everything would in the physical would represent us, our inner worlds. So how often, do we work and what do we do and how is it in community? And those things to me would look very local. Everything would be around nature. And, we would have schools that are in smaller ratios and really about, child led. And so it would really just be in alignment to
Mm-hmm.
the being. And we're just figuring out what that really means. Like, I think people
Mm-hmm.
have, they're just learning how much this society really does not at all help us thrive. Like, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
help us to like live in how we want to live truly. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I see it as like a very beautiful oasis. I totally believe in utopia. Like,
Yeah.
I really believe that that's where we're headed. And
Mm-hmm.
like just peace. Like, there's a lot of war and there's a lot of suffering and pain. And I think that we raise children to live in that world. We teach them,
Mm-hmm.
we program them, sometimes unconsciously through, video games and through TV shows and just, everything that a child sees is really important. I think once
Mm-hmm.
we figure that out too, that 0 to 7,
Mm-hmm.
very careful of what we show our children and
Mm-hmm.
what they see communication and relationships and just everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely aligned, a more aligned life.
Right, right. Well, what I find interesting is so, we have one of our members here, Heather, her daughter, and she said I can talk about this. So I will. It's really, really cool because, Heather's been on this journey of sort of getting attuned, aligned, with herself, like with her intuition, with all of that. And along with that, what's so interesting is her daughter, who is, how old is she now? She's 8 now, right? I feel like I mix up their ages a little bit. Or is she 9? I think she's 9. But in any case, she is an intuitive. She's a full on psychic. I mean, if there's anything even beyond that, that title, like whatever that title is, like she's there. She recognizes what like the soul, she's 9, the soul world looks like. She calls it Udalu Town. She can see, when they're walking through a store together, let's say they're walking through Target, my favorite place. So she'll see people, the spirits that are around people, like that, the less dense beings. She, Heather will talk about a friend who has passed, and her daughter will draw that person, and it literally looks like that person. And she maybe met that person once when she was like 4 or 5 years old. So Target, right? I know Heather's laughing because of me and Target. It's a whole other story. But this girl is full on, she's in it. She's already there. And I really give a lot of credit to Heather as a parent who really just listens to her, asks her questions, believes her. So I'm curious, for those parents, I feel like we're kind of working with sort of different degrees of where we're at with this. You've got the parent like Heather who's got this daughter who has all these gifts. Like, what advice would you give her in terms of helping her sort of navigate the world that we do live in? Like, I mean, we can create the utopia we desire today. I can do that right now for my family. And I mean, I also live in a world where I go to Target and this is in
Yeah.
general.
We're 1 foot in the old paradigm, 1 foot in the new
Yeah,
paradigm,
right.
right?
Yeah, I got these paths.
All the shifting that's happening. That's a really
Hmm.
interesting scenario because she's so gifted
Yeah.
already and living in this time. Um, and so any advice that I sense to give would just be to keep on honoring her because her abilities will keep growing. And if she feels supported in that way and she feels that this is actually a value, um, that's like the best thing that you can do as a parent for anything that your child's going through, right? Or that they're not
Hmm.
doing on their own. Um, but I use root chakras with my children, anything that they're going through. So I've started just that conversation, what the root chakra is, meditating in the root chakra, affirming in the root chakra, just that you're safe to have this gift. Your, your inner world and everything that you experience, that is yours. That is yours to protect. That is yours to honor in your any way that you feel to honor it. But definitely the root chakra
Well, do you
in
want to
my
describe that? Like, do you want to kind of say what that is or what that really
oh,
means?
yeah, so for the root chakra, um, just having your child imagine that they have this space inside of them that is their safe space, that when they go inward, that they are secure, that this is their inner home. And it really just means that they feel anchored into themselves and they're anchored into this world and to whoever they are in any given moment. So I hope that explains that.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. No, I mean, just
I
was
can, but
I listen to this podcast called Smartless, and they're always it's these actors who I love, and they're always like kind of explaining things to Tracy, the cousin in Wisconsin who may not be part of like Hollywood and everything. So I feel like it's important just to some of these terms like we may just dance with them all day, and some people it may be really new. So just kind of it's
yeah.
important like, well, what does that mean for me? You know, I know it really kind of means like I belong. I'm meant to be here. This is mine. I'm safe. I'm safe to do this. And I think like what you're saying, like for instance, in Heather's example, is that her daughter's really safe. Like this is her gift. It belongs. She belongs. It's not. I'm using the words like maybe weird or different. That it might be concepts that are out there, but this is amazing. You were given this for a reason. You get to anchor into this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Anchoring into it more and more, and that she knows she has that. Like, I really think the chakras are like superpowers. I think they were given to us as universe beings to be able to really be the strongest of ourselves. Right. So definitely, having her root in at some point. I know chakra work for kids, getting them to sit still and to really get into the root chakra is a little difficult, but um, I think that just them doing it actively, just in
Mhm.
conversation, they love talking about it and
Yeah.
like, you know,
That's
but yeah.
interesting because I think too about with root chakra, I think about with a lot of like Kundalini. Like this is why I think in the US a lot of the yoga that we do is really active because it helps us to settle. So I almost can see with root chakra even just doing a lot of like bouncing or a lot because it gets you grounded. Or for like young kids especially who maybe have a hard time sitting still, I could kind of see just like moving.
We are in nature a little bit. Like, we'll take our shoes off and
Yeah.
we spend summer a lot. Like, like I will say, like, I'm rooting in, like I will do it. And then my
Yeah.
kids will, obviously they'll just follow me and what I'm doing. And then they get a sense of like, okay, this is one way to root it. This is,
Yeah. Yeah.
to do it in the physical too. I think that that's where they start really. Kids are so, sensory and exploring
Yeah.
and engaged. So they really, starting them off in the chakras in that way, in the physical, can
Hmm.
usually give a good sense of. of what it actually means, um,
Yeah.
eventually.
That's really cool. And then what about, kind of on the flip side, like as a parent, I mean, we're all human. And so we go through these scenarios where, I mean, maybe we're having challenges. Like I know for me, not so much now, but especially when my son was younger, we went through some really challenging times where we went through like tantrums and things like that. Like what sort of advice do you have for parents who are maybe dealing with their own things? Like we've got a lot on our plates. You come home and it's 5 o'clock and you got to make dinner and there's all these things you got to do. And have you even taken care of yourself? And so, how do you sort of like navigate this for parents? Like I guess the one aspect is when we get into conflict with one another, and the other aspect is just parenting. How does it sort of like inform parenting?
Mm. Well, what I started doing about 2 years ago was, and this is what I've been creating and what I want to give to parents is something called base energy. And I practice every night for about 10 minutes where I have a space inside myself that is calm and peace. And then I tap into it during the day. I weave it in, instead of thinking about things and wondering about things and stressing out, I will tap into that. And what I do is when my kids are going through really hard time, I go right into that energy because I have to be there to help them navigate through it. But you're right, we have so much that we're carrying as parents. Sometimes we're just not like we're frazzled, we don't
Mm-hmm.
have all that energy to pull into that moment. Um, but it helps me so much compared to before I was doing it to after.
Hmm.
Um, just to be able to be there and help them through because sometimes it can be a small tantrum and they'll
Yeah.
need less energy, and sometimes it could be all day, an
Hmm.
all day emotional battle.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I would say having a practice of just on your own, a space where you are cultivating in that energy, because the more you do it consciously, it comes through the subconscious during your
Hmm.
day. So anything that comes up for you, it will kind of flow out more easily.
So you're
Uh,
saying that base energy, like, because it sounds like a really important concept for what you teach. I mean, is that sort of like if I were to do that, is that my center? Is that so? It's like my calm space, right?
Yes,
It's
it's like a secret garden. Like it's like,
Mhm.
you go in there because I think meditation sometimes I find some people are kind of offset by like, oh, I have to now I have to see my mind and I have to battle myself. When they first go into meditation. But I think if you go there with an intention, like, you know what, no, this is my respite from the world, my respite from the mind. I need this, just like I need diet and movement and mental health work and all of the things. This is just as important. I need this space for myself. Um, because, like if I looked at a pie chart of my thoughts and my actions and all of my energy in the day, um, you really could get a sense that, oh my gosh, I'm not really calm.
Mhm.
Really, I don't really hold that energy that much. But when you do that every night and then, or, whenever you have time, and then you do it through the day, um, you kind of know, you start to actually change your frequency, your
Yeah.
vibration,
Hmm.
and you handle things a lot differently,
Hmm.
like a lot.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like if I know my base energy, so to speak, or my calm place, when I get into situations where I might be, excuse me, I might be tired, or my kid is really being insistent about something, or I can come back to that place and I can act from that place instead of acting from that energetic space that I might be in or I might be tipping towards. Like if I'm tipping towards frustration or snapping, like I don't even have to be in that energy, in that frequency, because I have what we call like that base energy. It's like a resource, it's like a resource to come back to. Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. And I'm curious too, because, as humans, we also have kind of what can be like our triggers, even from how we grew up, or, our own wounds that we haven't really healed. So I'm just curious, like in your work with parents, if you do kind of anything with that. Like as a parent, if I have my wound or my trigger because of how I grew up, do you have anything that you do with parents to kind of help them with that?
Yes. So I do transformational experiences. Like I believe in shaking up things. So you have a whole new reset. And so I do something called I call it time traveling, but I like to say time weaving because it sounds weird when you say time traveling. But basically going back in your mind,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you can call up an experience, or you can create a whole new experience with your parents, working with the inner child. And I believe that when you go into those kind of spaces and you hold a different energy, it actually comes into now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are always holding this, like, oh, these things happen to me, and you're holding them in the body, right? So if you can go back and you can do these different experiences, um, like how I guide people through, different, holding different memories in the body, then now it's changed. You've changed the vibration of now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of one of the healing things that I do. And then also just teaching people when they have a trigger to identify it, in the moment when it comes to, because you're just there in this, big moment with your child, big emotions and everything going on, is to identify it, to pause, to set in your intention of what you want to bring in there, and then just know what they need, just, and having that balance and harmony. Um, I really think that peace in parenting is not like your kids being perfect. It's more like, how do you meet them, right? So even if you have a trigger, even if something's coming up for you and you're stressing out, it's all about taking that moment, realizing where you are, and then
Mm-hmm.
trying to navigate it best, as you can, by pulling up a different energy, and really just trying to meet their needs and yours, um,
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because, in the work that I do, like I mentioned, I also work with energy and shifting it, and it sounds exactly like
Mhm.
what you're doing too, in a different way. And this to me is, if I feel like we're all coming to a place where we can recognize this. There's so many shifts that can happen when we all recognize these energies, or if I'm getting triggered, like the frequency, the energy that I'm in, I can bring myself back to that base place, so to speak, or I can sort of transmute what happened in the past. So I'm not sort of reliving it in the present with like a current situation. Yeah. So yeah, I was kind of looking through just, I mean, there's so much amazing work that you do. And, your dream of really making life sort of more harmonious for the family dynamic. I know you lead women's circles, and you have kind of like a parenting group too, right? So if someone were to kind of come into your world, perhaps as a parent, like what would that look like? Like, do you do you have like a framework that you work with? What does that look
Well,
like?
so I do like sacred circles. And so within the sacred circle, I would be activating base energy every time we work together, and then going through different themes. So I like to kind of shake it up. So one week it might be about, food and healing with food and how that can raise our energy health. Um, and then, one week it might be inner child work. So it really changes, but we really kind of tap into all the different aspects and facets, of our energy. And my basis of the whole thing is to raise our energy, to feel like we're really, really healthy and whole, and that all the facets of ourselves are kind of coming in together into this one beautiful, harmonious stream and balance. And it's really just learning how to come back into balance, really.
Hmm.
Definitely coming into to circles, one,
Yeah.
and then kind of like, I also like doing like emails. Like, I think people writing things out. I know email sounds so like really old school, but I feel intuitive when I read something. For some reason,
Yeah. Hmm.
someone writes something to me, then I can sit with it and pull cards for it, and really kind of feel it out, and then give feedback that way. So there's a lot of communication and emails and things like that um, that I kind of envision in the in the working with people.
Yeah, beautiful. And what I like about that too is that it's sort of, we all have these different styles of learning. Some people are really visual, some people need to hear things or they need to see things written down. So that is really nice. I feel like I can really integrate things when I see them kind of all written out. So that is really special. I love that. Yeah. Um, so I mean, I think I saw you were kind of offering which is amazing, like a complimentary sessions to people who are watching. So is that right? Can you tell us kind of more about that?
So I was going to do for the first three people, one-on-one session, and basically be whatever they feel that they want to work on, whatever part of their life, or if there's something with their child that maybe they want to manifest they're at this stage with their child, but they want to help them navigate to the next developmental stage. Even if it was something like, their child's having a hard time conveying their feelings, through their words, and then work with them through that. Or just anything that they feel that, like, I'm really struggling with food, or, maybe I'm having trouble somewhere in my health, in my body. And I can kind of help them in those areas to begin the journey of really raising energy in that one specific area.
Hmm. That's amazing. Like, what a great gift. I mean, you got to jump on that. There's only 3 spots for that. So I would definitely get in touch with Cara with that. So, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best place to find you?
Yeah, so it's there's an email,
Hmm.
newwayparentingpod@gmail.com,
Hmm.
and just contact me, and kind of we'll start conversing and see where it leads, whatever um, resonates with you, and then I can kind of group together what package or offering would work best.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, is there anything else you kind of want to sort of leave us with or talk about before we go? There's so much, right?
Well, I do offer a private group
Yeah.
for Mother Sacred Circle,
Hmm.
and that is kind of what we do. Like, there's a Sunday circle every day to start the month, the first Sunday of every month, and there we just offer resources and support. Like, if there's anything that you're ever going through with your child or need some advice on, and then I would go and find what it is that could help, and then through energy and chakra work and anything like that that I could offer in that group. So there's also that, if anyone's interested. You can also contact me through the email to find
Yeah.
out information.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This is such a pleasure. And I can't wait to see you in the group and to just take advantage of all your amazing resources.
Yeah. So
Thank
great.
you.
So much.